It's been less than 2 months since Kim Janey took over at the helm at Boston City Hall, becoming the first woman and the first person of color in the job. And it's been just over 1 month since she announced she's running for a full term in the mayoral election this fall. But already, Janey has had to contend with a lot. From an investigation into Dennis White, the police commissioner was put on leave over a decades-old domestic violence allegation, and a scandal over who knew what and when about the child molestation charges against the former cop and police union president, to how and when to roll back COVID restrictions, which is now 3 weeks behind the statewide reopening. To discuss all of this, and I hope more, Mayor Kim Janey joins me now. Mayor, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So it's been months since we've had a permanent police commissioner in this city. As I mentioned, Dennis White was suspended or put on leave by the Mayor Walsh 2 days after he appointed him. Late in April, you received an investigation report on this matter, said we'd have a decision soon. Soon seems to have come and gone. Where are we now?
Well, we certainly hope that this will happen this week in terms of an announcement. And I obviously can't allow you to scoop the story, so you will have to wait along with other folks. But we do hope to conclude this by the end of this week.
Have you made a decision?
Well, we are going to make an announcement on where things are this week, at the end of this week.
Speaking of police, Patrick Rose Sr., the cop I mentioned a while ago who rose to become president of the union, has been credibly accused of serial child molestation. You released part of his internal affairs report a couple of weeks ago. I think it was roughly 13 pages out of 105. That means 90% of that report almost, Mayor, will never be seen by the public. You argued, I believe, it was to protect the privacy of the victims. Is that the permanent state of affairs? Will the public never see the other 92 pages here?
So what I would say is in my first few weeks as mayor, I have done more to ensure transparency and accountability than what we have seen in a number of years when it comes to police or other issues. In terms of this file, what is of utmost importance to me is that we protect the identities of the victims who are now survivors of this case. Mm-hmm. It is a horrific case. The fact that a police officer would be accused of such things, that those accusations would be sustained, and that this officer would stay on the force is outrageous and indefensible. In terms of protecting the identities, we also are protecting the details of that abuse, and certainly don't want to do anything to re-traumatize survivors or deter other victims of abuse from coming forward. What is at the heart of the matter is ensuring that we understand what happened and how this was handled by the police. And that is what we need to get at the root cause of, so that this never, ever happens again. So those are the things that we focused on in releasing the files. What happened in terms of how this was handled by the police, not a focus on the details of the abuse and re-traumatizing victims or deterring other victims from coming forward.
Well, two things. One, have you read the whole 105-page report, Mayor?
I have been briefed by my team, and it was pretty bad.
But you haven't read the whole thing?
No, I've been briefed by my team.
So he is charged now in a criminal matter. Facts are going to come out. I totally respect the notion of protecting the identities of the survivors, of course. But your view is that the public is not entitled to see the details of his potential crimes?
My view is that survivors should be protected. My view is that they should not be re-traumatized. My view is that we should not do anything that would deter other victims of abuse from coming forward.
Earlier today, let's move on to COVID if we can. Earlier today, I believe you said at a press availability that you're contemplating speeding up the reopening. As I said at the top, we're a few weeks behind the state. I want to talk about a related matter. Maura Healey, the Attorney General, on our radio show a few weeks ago said that she believed that all public-facing, public encountering public employees, they should be mandated to be vaccinated. The governor doesn't agree with that. You agree with the governor. Why shouldn't they be mandated to have a vaccine if they face the public?
You know, my approach has been to make sure that we get information out, not only to city employees, but all residents, so that they can make informed decisions, that we're getting information out from trusted sources, that we are putting ourselves in a position to trust the science and make informed decisions, as well as making sure that the vaccine is accessible. Very proud of the work that we have done in Boston in terms of meeting people where they are. We are seeing, record numbers almost in terms of the decrease. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen cases drop by almost 40%, and our positivity rate is the lowest that it has been in months. And so we are well positioned to look at loosening additional restrictions in terms of our timeline as it compares to the state. Obviously, we can't go beyond what the state is doing, but I'm glad and very proud that we are seeing our numbers trend in the right direction. And so I have asked, my chief of public health, as well as my chief of economic development, to look at, loosening some of the restrictions. I will always make decisions that are informed by the data and do what is best to protect the residents of Boston, as well as promote our businesses.
But don't you think that as to the residents of Boston, an unvaccinated public employee providing a service puts that resident at greater risk? Does he or she not?
I want everyone, to get the information that they need and hopefully choose to get vaccinated. Okay. And I'm going to do everything as mayor to ensure that they have access to the vaccine and confidence in the vaccine. We've launched the HOPE campaign as a way of, giving people confidence and making sure that we're getting information out in different languages. In terms of mandates, I think what we have to do is make sure there's the right information and the access to the vaccine. And that's across the board, not just city employees, that is, our residents in general in the city.
Speaking of residents, I know you know that today, in the last 24 hours, Pfizer has gotten approval, which is great news, to vaccinate 12 to 15-year-olds, which is raising the question, should kids be required to be vaccinated themselves before they return to school in the fall? Should they be?
Well, again, parents will make the decisions that they think are best for their children. And what I will do as mayor is make sure that people have access to the information so that they can make informed decisions and get access to the vaccine should they choose. We have seen with our population of 16 to 64 that at least 61% of Boston residents have received one shot. That number does decrease as you go younger into the population. People feel they're invincible, that this doesn't impact them the same way. But the truth is, I believe that the more people who are vaccinated, the better off we all are. So I will continue to make sure that the vaccine is not only accessible, but that we are focusing on hardest hit communities and distributing the vaccine in a manner that is equitable.
I think most people with whom I speak, I include myself, say the mayoral field is a pretty impressive one, to say the least. You're obviously part of that. You know that Richard Taylor, a developer, former Weld cabinet member, sent an email to some supporters of Andrea Campbell, a former council colleague of yours who obviously is running for mayor, urging her to drop out and run for Suffolk DA, I guess assuming that Rachel Rollins will be elevated to U.S. attorney. Your campaign manager said that email does not reflect the views of this campaign, meaning that she should drop out. When Councilor Campbell was here last week, she said she wondered why you hadn't responded directly to this overture from Taylor. Would you like to take the opportunity to?
I absolutely do not support pushing anyone out of the race. That does not reflect my views or my values. I'm, in fact, annoyed by the notion that anyone would be asked to not do what they think is best for them. I was annoyed when this happened in 2013 and continue to be offended by the notion that you could not have a talented field of lots of people of color running, as we saw in the DA's race a couple of years back. And so, I think anyone who wants to run should do so and let the voters decide.
So we only have less than a minute left. You've been in that chair for what, 50 days, give or take, a day or two?
Just under 50 days.
Oh, it is 50.
7.5 weeks.
Well, that was a good guess on my part. What's the one challenge that you've encountered you least expected when you took over? Well, one for starters. We'll continue more next time. What's the one?
We're in a global pandemic. We are, there is still structural racism that is persistent. I don't know that there's any one challenge to point to, but I would say in terms of surprises, I think it has been wonderful to see the way that people care about our city. Certainly there's been an outpouring of support and appreciation for me in this role as the first woman, as the first Black mayor of our city in almost 200 years. And I think there is a continued desire to work together to tackle these tough challenges together. And that is what I will continue to do as mayor, seeking to bring people together to work on these issues together as a city.
Mayor Kim Janey, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
See you soon.
All right. Take care.